Hello and welcome to Exercise Your Thumbs and a review rating roundup for games coming out on around the 14th of March 2014. We're going to start with an amendment to last week's video. There was a game called Atelier, Escher and Logi, Alchemist of the Dusk Sky. Peggy hadn't put the formal rating out for it yet, so I looked at the previous games in the series and the highest rated game was a 16. So to err on the side of caution, I went for the 16 rating and kind of talked about that instead. Peggy have put the official rating on their system now, and it is a 12 rated game, so it's down one notch from my previous assumption. That is for reasons of violence and swearing, and the Peggy rating for that says contains non-realistic looking violence towards human characters, mild bad language, violence causing minor injury only. When I do these roundups, I generally do the research on a Wednesday, record on a Thursday and put them out on a Friday. Often on the Wednesday prior to release, the information isn't up on Peggy, so I will look either at previous games in the series if they're available on the Peggy website, and also on Amazon and other retailers to see what rating they've been given for the retail purchase. That's where I kind of make my judgments when it comes to ones that Peggy haven't formally announced yet on their website. So if that happens, I will make sure that the following week, when if the rating has changed from my assumption, that I will amend it and let you know. So that is Atelier, Escher and Logi, Alchemists of the Dusk Sky, which is a 12 rated game, not 16 as previously said. We have a couple of collections out as well at the moment. We've got the Red Faction collection for the PS3 and the PC. This has been given, hasn't been given a rating by Peggy yet, but it contains 4 games. Red Faction, which was originally on the PS2, Red Faction 2, which was on PS2, Red Faction Guerrilla and Red Faction Armageddon, which I think were both PlayStation 3 games as well as PC. Now, the reason I have gone with the 18 rating for this is that Red Faction Armageddon does have a Peggy rating of 18. And as that is one of the 4 games included in this collection, it's not unreasonable to assume that they would give the age rating to the game that has the highest rating in that collection. So as Red Faction Armageddon is 18 rated, I've suggested that that's probably where it's going to fall. Also, on Amazon, it's showing as an 18 rated game as well. So we've got those two things working together to suggest that that's where it's going to be. This is a first-person shooting game for Red Faction and Red Faction 2, and then Red Faction Guerrilla and Red Faction Armageddon moved into the third person. First person is where you see actually through the eyes of the character, so you don't see the character themselves, like Doom and Call of Duty. Red Faction Guerrilla and Red Faction Armageddon are third person, where you will actually see your character on screen, usually from behind them, and they will run around an environment and you'll see not through their eyes but from their perspective. Red Faction collection has been given 18 for online content, violence and swearing, and the explanation for Armageddon was that it contains extreme violence, strong language and also interaction online. The next of the collections is Darksiders Collection. There have been 2 Darksiders games, funny enough Darksiders 1 and Darksiders 2. Both of those games were 16 rated. Again, the collection has not received an official Peggy rating yet, but I've looked at the old games, both of which were 16, and also on Amazon at the moment is showing as a 16 rated game. That 16 is for violence and online content. This is a third person action game, so again you're not seeing through the eyes of the character, you see the character running around. In the first game you play as one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, war, and in the second game there is a 5th horseman which is death, and you play as death. And the idea is that something's gone catastrophically wrong with the world and you have to put it right, otherwise it is the end of humankind. They are violent games, have a slightly cartoon feel to them, but there is certainly an amount of graphic violence in the way that it is animated. So Darksiders Collection 16 for violence and online content, out on the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, just on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. So the next up, bit of a change of pace, Yoshi's New Island for the 3DS. This is part of the Mario universe. So Yoshi is a Mario character. Again, there was no official Peggy rating for this one yet, but on Amazon it's showing as 3 years. And if you look at all of the Mario games, they're generally for 3 years great. They're great family games for younger people. They're colourful, they're fun, they're pretty inoffensive. With the 3 years one, there is no other explanation. It is just given as 3 years, suitable for all. So there are no symbols about violence and swearing because it won't contain any of those things. It's a good old-fashioned 2D platform game as you would expect from any Mario or Sonic game that you've seen in the past. The next two are the big releases for the week. Dark Souls 2 is a sequel, funny enough, to Dark Souls. This is available on the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360 and PC. This is an action role-playing game. The Dark Souls series are well known for being fiendishly difficult. They are for hardcore gamers only who have tons of patience and tons of time to get into them. There is a certain amount of violence in them. You are a character, and it's generally against demons and monsters and dragons that you're fighting rather than humans. The closest you get to a human character generally is going to be some kind of undead zombie that you have to put down. But it does have a certain amount of violence in it. Now, Dark Souls 2 has not again had an official PEGI rating that I can find on their website yet. But I've looked on, again, the previous Dark Souls game and looked on Amazon, and currently that's running at 16. So the 16 is for reasons of violence and online content, and the explanation for Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, was content the game is suitable for persons aged 16 years and over only, it contains realistic looking violence, and it allows the player to interact with other players online. That Dark Souls 2, again, if that rating changes at all, I will update that on the next video. I can't see why it would. It is actually on Amazon at 16, and the previous games were 16 as well. But if that changes, I'll tell you next week. And finally, and what is probably the biggest release of the week, because it is landing on one of the next generation or the new generation consoles, this is Titanfall for the Xbox One. It is also available on the Xbox 360 and PC, but obviously a lot of the fanfare is about this is one of the first full-on AAA titles for one of the new generation consoles. We've got Titanfall this week, and next week the PlayStation 4 has the infamous Second Son game, which is another big launch. But Titanfall is a first-person shooter. It is online only, and you'll play online games in teams, I think, of 8. So 8 versus 8 maximum, 16 players against each other, in 2 teams of 8, going for various different themes, different kind of games. There's a capture the flag where you have to pick something from one side of the level and take it to the next. There's deathmatch, which is simply just shooting as many as your opposition as you can in a time period. There are various different types of gameplay elements, but they'll all be played against other players. So it's a first-person shooter traditionally most of the time. Your guys will run around the environment, you see their eyes, and they will shoot stuff. Titans, though, are these big robots that drop from the sky on a regular basis. You can then climb into them and pilot them. So you're inside a massive robot with big guns and rockets. And then you can stomp around the field of play, taking out as many people as you can in these Titans. So that's kind of the catch for it. So it has been given a 16 rating. This is what I found this one on PEGI. This is one of the few today that is actually already on the PEGI website. It's got bad language, violence, and obviously, because it's online only, some online content. So that's the big one. That's the one that they're probably going to be talking about this week, because it's for Xbox One in particular. Xbox 360 version, the PC version are not what people are going to be talking about. It's the landing of the Xbox One. It starts now with the big titles appearing on these new generation consoles. So there'll be a lot of talk and a lot of requirement and want to play these games. Some of them, or the majority of them, are probably not going to be appropriate for most younger people. Most of the new content coming out at the moment is going to be at least 16 or 18 at the very least. But I will keep you appraised of those anyway. In summary, there was the amendment for Altelia, Escher and Logi, Alchemist of Sky, which last week I had as a 16, but now it's officially 12. We've got the Red Faction Collection, which contains 4 of the Red Faction games, which is an 18 rated game, not official on PEGI, but because Red Faction Armageddon was an 18 rated game, we'll make a reasonable assumption that 18 is the category, and also that is how it's being sold on Amazon. Same with the Darksiders Collection, 2 games in the Darksiders Collection, 16 rated for violence and online content. Both the games were previously 16s on PEGI. That is the level that it's being sold at on Amazon, so I will assume that it is a 16 rated game, and if that changes I will update you next week. Yoshi's New Island, 3 years, that means anyone can play it. It's for the 3DS and it's a 2D platform game in the Mario universe. Then the big releases for the week: a 16 rating for Dark Souls 2 for violence and online content, which is available for 360, PS3 and PC. And finally, a 16 rating for swearing, violence and online content for Titanfall, which is available for Xbox One, Xbox 360 and PC. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found it useful. Please like, favourite and share the videos. That'll help us get out to more people. Please follow us on Twitter as well at E_Y_thumbs. There is a link on the website and on the YouTube channel to the Twitter account. Thank you very much for listening. Have an excellent week and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye for now.